The Agenda is powered by DART, Delaware's transit service, moving forward.
Thank you very much for tuning in this week. It's Kerwin Gaines here. And as promised, this whole new season of The Agenda, we have new guests, new problems, new solutions to those problems, and new discussions. And this week is no exception. This week we have Ms. Thaïs Greca.
Yes.
She will be here, and we have Representative Mike Ramone who will be here also. We're very, very excited to have both of them here this week. But right now we're bringing in a topic that, as everybody knows, is close to my heart, and that's cybersecurity and children, right? So those are things that so many of us at home are concerned about. But there's also U.S. legislation backed by this, and we're going to have Ms. Greca talk to us a little bit about it. But we're also going to talk about personal responsibility. We're going to talk about parenting and their involvement in regards to this as well, and how important that is. It's just not on the kids in regards to cyberbullying, in regards to what they're viewing on their phones and how it's affecting them negatively, right? So we're going to talk about suicide rates and a couple other things, but and we're also going to talk about the legislation that Senator Bloomfield is trying to get pushed through the Senate in Washington. And we just want to make you aware of it right here at home, of everything that's going on. So Ms. Greca, please tell us a little bit about what you're doing.
Yes.
And how Delawareans are affected.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what you're going to be doing here at DETV in regards to educating parents about this issue.
Yes. So I'll take that away. I started a nonprofit called Emerging Teens. And Emerging Teens will introduce kids to emerging technology. So that's all the fun stuff, artificial intelligence, chatbots, maybe some virtual reality. But my fear is to give the kids something that I haven't prepared them for or taught them how to control safely. And that is in the digital world. I have two children. I have a 10-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old son. And, like most parents, I'm like, you're a little too loud. Go in your room, go on Roblox, take my phone, do something. So one day I had a heart-to-heart with my daughter, and I was like, hey, you can tell me anything you want, and I promise I won't get mad. I was like, have you ever given your name to someone online? And she was like, oh, yeah. And I was like, okay, don't get mad. But I was like, why did you do that? And she was like, well, they asked. And I was like, oh, my gosh, I haven't prepared my child. So, looking into documentaries that are out there. There's a documentary called Childhood 2.0. It's free on YouTube. And it teaches us that we raise our kids like our parents raised us. Mm-hmm. I know not to talk to someone in a car that's driving by the house. I know not to, take candy from a stranger. Mm-hmm. All those things is what I'm teaching my child. Mm-hmm. But that danger went down 80% because now we're in a digital world. Those dangers are now online. Mm-hmm. So instead of the guy trying to give my child candy, it's the guy trying to get, or the person, let's not just generalize here, or the person online giving my child 1,000 Roblox bucks to give him or them her name. Mm-hmm. And that's what's happening. Your kids are making friends online and it's fun, but 2 weeks later, they're being enticed. Hey, I'll give you 50 Roblox bucks if you tell me what state you live in. It's no fear. I'll tell you where I live. I live in New Jersey, but we don't know who that person is. So the dangers are out there. So I started Emerging Teens. My interest is to educate kids with all the fun stuff, but I can't do that without the responsibility of educating them about the dangers as well.
And so how do we go about educating? How do we go about, protecting them?
Yes. So I think a lot of it comes, what I would like to say is to the parents. I watched the Senate committee hearing with the CEOs of the big tech companies or big social media companies, and, they got it handed to them, mm-hmm. but I'm fearful that we aren't taking on our responsibility as parents. Mm-hmm. So I'm starting workshops. It's called Safe Phones, Smart Kids. The workshops will be at Wilmington University, Brandywine campus, Newcastle campus, as well as Dover. I tried to do as many counties as I could, trying to be statewide. And the workshop will teach your kid about being online. There's just things we don't know. I didn't know we scroll on the phone down because it was engineered that is an addictive motion. It's just like reaching down on the lever when you're gambling at a casino. That is addictive. So now we scroll down, and just that alone is addicting your child. So it will basically just teach your kid, I know how to identify grooming. I know how to stay out of bullying situations. I'm not going to join a group text with 30 friends from school because if one person gets in trouble, I'm getting in trouble. I'm going to realize that, too much technology makes me upset. It drains my brain, and then that goes into mental health issues. So kids just don't know, parents don't know. So the workshops are for kids and parents, they're separated, and we basically just teach them items to keep them safe out there and just to be educated. I told my daughter this is her safe phone permit, because she's 10. So I told her she comes to my workshop, she can get a phone. Emerging Teens, the nonprofit that I founded, we partnered with Bark Technologies as their community partner.
Tell me a little bit, sorry to step on you there. Tell me a little bit about Bark. I mean, I know that you've gone through so many companies and I guess strategies and platforms in regards to protection because we always want the best thing for our children. But what was it that made you align with Bark for your organization?
Okay, so the CEO of Bark, he started Bark, he used to work for Twitter. He started Bark to keep kids safe. There was a lot of data coming through that, was alarming. So Bark was created, it uses AI, which emerging part, it uses AI to identify different alerts on your kid's phone. It just tells you like, hey, there may have been a bullying incident on your child's phone. And these are the way that you can approach that. So you don't just go barging in the room yelling. It says, maybe this weekend you'll have a conversation and this is how you can approach it. Because a kid will break the trust with you if you're always in their business or in their phone, So you want to keep the trust there because keeping the trust there allows everyone to keep them safe.
Right.
If they feel like they have to start sneaking around, they're not going to want to tell you anything that's going on.
So what would you say to the parent that says something like, well, I pay for the phone. It's my phone. I deserve to know the information that's on it. You are my child. And until you're of age, I deserve to be able to audit and get that information.
Well, I'm aging myself now. I am a millennial mom, but that's the teaching the man to fish, right? You can teach a man to fish, but if you keep bringing the fish to them, they won't be able to survive. They'll never lean on themselves. And it's not about you being able to know what's going on in your kid's phone, because that really is, I think, what parents want. You just want to know, you want to be involved. But your kid is going to be an independent person.
Right.
If they can't tell the person on Roblox, I'm not giving you my name, and I'm reporting your username. Like, wow, that was an armed child.
Right.
Now that person on Roblox is probably going to go change their profile.
They know where to go.
Right.
They know the outcomes. And they know what is going to, I guess, cause a bad actor to turn around and go the other way.
Yes, because there are the parents, like there was a 16-year-old and her dad supported her having her profile on not just Snapchat, but OnlyFans because it was making her money. Wow. So we have kids who are being sent money and kids want money. So what 16-year-old girl or boy isn't going to send a picture of themselves, maybe a selfie, to get $500? And then who knows where that picture is going. So I think if kids don't even know that, hey, Taylor Swift and those deep fakes, your kid doesn't even have to be exposing themselves. They could just grab your kid's head, put it on a body and be like, I'm going to blast this all over social media until you give me $1,000. And I want my child to be like, you know what, that's a deep fake. Instead of saying like, oh, I need to go and, hurt myself because I don't want to embarrass my family. And that's what's happened.
Tell me a little bit about like how the kids are being affected, and I guess what should we be looking for?
Okay, so mental health, it has skyrocketed. Even if you look in the news now, I believe today or yesterday, which was February 14th.
It's Valentine's.
Yeah, Valentine's Day. New York sued the social media companies for aiding in the mental health crisis of kids in New York. So let's just talk about Bark. I partnered with Bark. They do a great job at detecting all of these things, all these incidents, but then they come out with an annual report.
Okay.
2023 annual report. 76% of teens said they were depressed.
76% said they were.
76%.
So is that just the moody teenage
That's
blues?
That's me telling my best friend, like, hey, I'm staying home today. I don't feel like coming out. Or I don't feel good. So those messages are monitored for insights, for data.
Okay.
So it's not telling a parent like, hey, City said this to her friend, or your child said this, or John said this. It's we have detected several messages that have the language of depression. You may want to talk to your kid about these things. So it really tailors your conversation, because now you're not only out the loop, you're in the loop, but you're also given direction on how to have those conversations without feeling like you're jumping into your kid's business.
Okay.
Yep. So just that. So 76% of kids are depressed. 12,000 suicidal texts or messages were caught every week in 2023 on BART.
These are children, these are teenagers.
I don't want to be here anymore. I want to kill myself. Nobody likes me. I don't know why I'm born. All those messages, they're real thoughts. And now they're not just with you and the kids in the neighborhood, it's you in the world. Someone in London can comment on your picture and just say, you're the worst looking person in the world. And that matters, because now the world is so much bigger.
Causes you to spiral down this path of depression and I guess
body
suicide,
image.
Negative body imaging and things like that.
Violence, violent bullying. Even with the alarming rate of violence that we have in our schools now, 82% of flagged items for violence in our phones. And these are just Bark phones. So there's phones that we don't have Bark on. So you can have a Bark phone, which is a Samsung on the T-Mobile network, or you can have a Bark app if your child has an iPhone or an iPad. But if you don't, it's not detected. So this is just the 6.9 million kids that use Bark. So we're using that data to push legislation. We're using that data to make differences, to make changes, to find people, to find incidents, to stop these perpetrators. But we can't do that.
So again, for the folks at home, the Bark app is going to go out and detect patterns in text and speech that coincide with depression and negative speaking and all that other stuff.
And they have their own algorithm, which means they have their own way of searching Snapchat that kids delete or the photos delete. They can look at the Snapchat, they can look at Instagram, they can look at TikTok, they can look at social media, so you don't have to spend 3 hours on a Sunday night zooming through your kid's phone. It's doing it for you. It's hands-off monitoring.
It's done. I love it. Tell me about, real quickly, what you're going to be doing here at DETV Studios.
Yes, so DETV Studios, March 21st, we'll have a kickoff of the Safe Phone Smart Kids campaign. The chief marketing officer is coming here. She's flying in from Bark.
I love it.
To launch it, and we're going to have a good time. We're going to talk about the campaign. We're going to talk about the workshops, and we're just really going to get everyone smarter. We're protecting kids, and that's the motivation.
So, as you know, on the agenda, we're always trying to make sure, and we have legislators in the room today, what can they do to, I guess, aid, prevent, legislate this topic and make families smarter?
They can promote the Kids Online Safety Act. It's out there now, or really just make it more accessible for this data to be known. I asked Bark, with the phones that we're able to get out in Delaware, can we have that data? I want to know what Delaware's imprint is. What are the kids thinking in Delaware? What are we going through? How are we targeted? So there's just different ways that we can work with legislators, and we're all for it.
Ms. Thaïs Greca, thank you very much for joining us here on the agenda. 22nd?
March 21st.
March 21st.
There will be a QR code that comes on the screen, and it will take you to the registration.
Love it. I will be there. I hope you will be there too.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with Representative Mike Ramone.
Still searching for cheap gas prices? Dump the pump and ride DART. You can DART to your destination for only $4 all day. Let DART do the driving while you enjoy our free Wi-Fi available on all buses statewide. While scrolling through your favorite apps, don't forget to download DART's free transit app for real-time bus information and enjoy the convenience of contactless fare payment through DART Pass. So what are you waiting for? Dump the pump and try transit. Visit dartfirststate.com or call 1-800-652-DART.
We're back on the agenda. As promised, we have Representative Mike Ramone. He made it clear that he's just Mike, and we're happy that he's here. We don't often, we've been criticized, oh, you guys are too Democratic on your show. You don't bring in enough Republicans. I talked to the GOP lead for the state, Julie Murray, and she's like, we're going to fix that. So I'm so glad that you're here and having a discussion with us so we don't feel as though we're one-sided. But I guess our paths have crossed on several occasions before, but really having that time to sit and meet with you. Thank you very much for being on the agenda.
Kerwin, thank you for having me. I'm very, very honored to be here. Maybe we can do it more often.
Oh, we will do it more often.
I think
this
the more we
will
talk
happen.
and the more we listen, the more we realize we're a lot closer than we think we are sometimes. It's not about reds and blues. It's about people taking care of people.
Yeah. And your district is a district that I grew up in, and I'm very excited about everything that's going up on there in that area. But please tell us about your district and how long you've been a representative.
Yeah. I was fortunate enough to get elected about 15 and a half years ago. This will be the end of my 16th year. I'm in a very interesting district. I'm a little Catholic boy, grew up right in my district, went to St. John the Beloved, St. Mark's, so forth. And, you know, you got St. John's, Holy Angels, St. Mark's, Resurrection Parish. It's a very tight-knit area.
Yeah.
And the result of that, I think, is you really know a lot of people in the community. And my district has about 8,200 or so Democrats and only about 4,900, maybe 5,000 if you push it, Republicans.
Okay.
And around 5,200 independents. So I'm actually representing the third party. Okay. And everybody's, you know, what are you doing? There's only 2 Republicans left, Kerwin, from north of the canal.
Yeah.
So, you know, although Janet Kilpatrick is a county councilwoman, so there's actually 3, 1 county, 2 statewide. But the point is, Newcastle County, you know, is difficult to win as a Republican, and I believe the main reason for that is agendas like that don't work in our area. It's just take care of people.
Yeah, I mean, Delaware's, I firmly believe it's a microcosm of not only 3 different counties, and we only have 3 counties, but because we're surrounded in the tri-state area by many other states that have come down and found a cheaper way of living, basically. Right. You know, you run into so many people with so many ideas. It's tough to be a Republican in this area.
It's very diverse, and I would say it simply. You know, first of all, when you're elected, you got 2 jobs. You know, you got the Doveritis job. You got to go to Dover. You got to do the bills. I'm a guy that I don't like a lot of bills.
Right.
And in a super majority in the Senate, and super minority in the Senate, and I happen to be in a minority in the House, and no statewide seats for Republicans in the entire state of Delaware. You know, your role, I'm not going to go in there and champion Republican ideas. They're never going to get on the floor. So my role is really to build relationships with people on both sides of the aisle, listen to ideas. The ideas I love, we bring to our side. Now that I'm a minority leader, I can talk to my group and try to get some positive bipartisan work and efforts. But if it's a bill that we just don't like, or it's just something that's maybe against certain values as a business guy, I've always been in business, I've always done those types of things. My job then is just to minimize unintended consequences. Try to find a way that we can say, look, you know, you're going to pass your bill, but please, these couple things might hurt someone. Can we please just talk about them? And I think we've been very successful at that. I like working with people. I think if we all listen a little bit more and stop yakking as much, I think we realize we're a lot closer than we think, and that's valuable.
What would you say, and I trust what you're saying, but for those folks at home that have been jaded by one party in particular, or just say the Republican Party, and they feel as though that there is an agenda that they're not being supported in, right? But that could be further from the truth. But what would you tell them?
I would suggest that there's many ways to be polarized. What I would suggest is find out what works for you and for your family and stick to that, but don't make it red or blue or scarlet red or ocean blue or even pink, right, or baby blue. Like I'm always, my big thing is I'm yellow. All my colors are yellow. There's 3 primary colors. Everybody says you have to be red or you got to be blue. Why can't you be yellow? Right. Why can't I just listen? You know, maybe I'm a little bit more smaller government, a little bit more fiscal. Let's lower people's taxes. Let's help people get started. Let's make people feel good about themselves and not be dependent on the government. I am kind of, but socially, I leave people alone. Stay out of their world, you know? Some topics aren't as complicated as we make them. But when you get to the area that we're in now, we've gravitated to something called entertainment media. We don't have media anymore. We have entertainment. We don't have Walter Cronkite. We don't have Kerwin sitting there giving us real honest discussions. Right. They've got, you know, you got the wackadoodle right and the wackadoodle left, and they're sitting there trying to build this, you know, chaos Why? Because people like to watch chaos.
Yeah.
You know, they don't like to watch, they need that hype. So they're fighting for the chaos, so they take topics and they polarize them. And unfortunately, people sometimes lock into those stations and then it polarizes themselves.
Yeah.
If we listen more and just like get past that craziness, we're really not that far away.
You know, I think about what, and I don't want to seem like, I guess they're called boomers now. Is that right? And I think
Yes,
I
sir.
fall into that trap. But what Delaware used to be, I mean, it was truly bipartisan. Even though you're a Republican, you know, you still knew what was going on in the community. It wasn't a big deal. And if you were a Democrat, you weren't so far left that you just couldn't even, work with anyone. So is Dover trying to go back to that, or are we trying to find some commonality down there?
Kerwin, I would say life is like an ebb and flow. You know, we
Right.
got to bounce off the ends to stay around the middle. We went through a period, I was very close with Mike Castle, and we got so deep into the scarlet red, we lost a great leader, in my opinion. It's interesting, I think Mike Castle might have been, if you looked at Mike Castle and Tom Carper in their earlier years, you might have said, Tom was baby blue. Tom was pink, and Mike was baby blue. You would almost misidentify him. If you look at my record and me and Speaker Schwarzkopf, it's interesting. He was the only Democrat from the South, and he was the Speaker. I'm one of the only 2 Republicans north of the ditch in the House, and I'm the minority leader. Odd, but when you get too many people in one area, they end up fighting with each other.
Yeah.
So they look for that balance, and we need to get back to the balance. And I think, unfortunately, each party goes through their own toxicity. The Republicans have done it, and some would say, there's different parts of that going on now. And I think the Democrats are in the middle of that also. But I do believe in everybody's heart, deep enough, when they stop yelling and talking and gabbing and being mean or disrespectful and just start listening and try to focus on what's your job. Your job's to service people, right? I mean,
Right.
there was a day where these guys would get on horses and ride to Jabipsville to be able to, and to be able to vote on a bill. Now, unfortunately, it's become a career.
Right.
And that's tainted some of the people who serve their state or their country. And I'm sad to say that, but it has. So I guess what we need to focus on is just trying to listen and start voting for people, not necessarily parties. And I think Delaware does that better than most, but it's been more polarized lately. And I think one party put themselves in that situation, and they need to do what they need to do and listen a little better, work a little harder to get that reputation back that they're a party of the people.
Right. So you mentioned common sense and using a lot of that in regards to legislation and getting things done down in Dover, right?
Yes, sir. I think the biggest thing you need to do is, if you look at a topic and you're listening to people try to polarize it, toxic topics, guns. Let's get rid of all the guns. If we had a magnet in the air and it took every gun out of this country,
I don't agree
I'm
with
not
that.
sure that, I'm going to say I'm not.
I don't agree with that.
I'm not sure that works, because you can't take every gun out of the world, right?
Right.
So the bad guys are going to have guns and the good guys won't, right? So since we can't get rid of all of them in the whole world, let's teach safety. Let's teach responsibility. Rather than, it being toxic on each side and nobody wiggling, teach one or the other. Pro-life, pro-abortion. Tough topics, right? They want to say a baby's conceived, it's a life. And others want to say a woman has a right to her body well, in Delaware, it's even after the birth now, if something went wrong during an abortion. My point is simple. I am pro-life, but I'm pro-choice.
Now,
A
wait a
woman,
minute.
it's an easy one, Kerwin. It's an easy one.
How are we doing this? Please,
Because of
let me know.
I truly believe that everyone has their own beliefs when a life is a life, but the true professional that can say when a life is a viable life is a doctor. My niece had twins at 26 weeks, 2 pounds and 1 pound something, and they're both alive and wonderful, beautiful children living in Florida. The reality is, if that doctor says this could be a viable life, I believe that woman had a choice to that moment. At that moment, if a doctor says it's a life, to remove a life is death. I'm a little odd. I don't believe in the death penalty. I don't believe in abortion of a viable fetus. And I don't believe in euthanasia, or what do they call it? Death with dignity. God put us here. God will decide when we go.
So as a Republican that does not believe in the death penalty, how much flack are you taking from that?
About as much as I did when I voted for marriage equality. You know,
Okay.
you're isolated and you're not. It's not very happy of a time, but you just try. I think in 16 years I've developed a level of respect that they know I follow my heart and my district's heart. You know, my district is very. I mean, you don't win when you have less than half as many in your party than the other party, and there's more independents and Republican than your party. So, but when you listen to your people and you really know what they believe, you can be successful in a way that service is important. And I think the Rotarians say service above self, and I am a very adamant believer in that. I was president of Rotary for many years, and I do believe if you're going to serve in Dover, it needs to be service above self.
First, beyond a shadow of a doubt, I completely agree with you. Speaking of Dover, I know right now we're in session. You are, I guess, deciding which bills to go after, or I don't want to call it your plan of attack, but tell us a little bit about what's going on down there.
When we went in January, we were in for 3 weeks, and then we broke off at the end of January for JFC markup, which is going on during the month of February. The governor goes to all his secretaries in November, December. They determine what they want for their budget. They sit in front of those on JFC. I served on JFC for a few years. I served on bond for a few years. I served on joint finance for a few years. In all those different areas, different aspects of how we develop what's best for Delaware are developed. So now that JFC is going through the hearings and basically the governor's secretaries are saying what they want or don't want, we will go back in the first week of March and we'll start to work bills. One of the first bills I think that are going to come out, which I have some level of frustration with, is the gun bill that will come out. I don't have frustration because that bill's going to come out. I have frustration because the way it came out was unusual. You know, it was a bill that was brought up in committee, and it passed the committee hearing process. Unfortunately, there were so many people that talk on both sides. They limited them to a minute. The discussion went on till late in the night because they had a virtual aspect to it, and it just it wasn't user-friendly to the community that we serve, whether you're pro or con or against, for or against. So then the bill goes to appropriations, which means there's money needed to digest this bill. Well, at one point when we got all the money, it was like $12.7 million for 3 years. I thought I'm very much in favor of gun safety. I can't see spending $12.7 million on an educational process in gun safety where there's organizations out there that will come and do it for free in our schools and in our community centers and wherever we'd like to invite them. So I would much rather see the $12.7 million go to our children. We got to reconfigure the way we fund education anyway, because the way we're doing it now is failing. So until we find a way to fund children in a way that we promote success so they can leave an education and become a useful person in society. I was one of those lucky ones that got the alphabet. I've got the attention deficit disorder, ADD, I'm dyslexic, I got all those things going on. I've done pretty good in the business world because I use resources around me. I'm never the smartest guy in the room. I want a lot of smart people around me. But with the state of technology and what the children can get out of this by knowing how to use it properly, I love the conversation you had with an earlier guest about the bad things, but education in a monitored way with supervision. When I went to my high school, they brought us all in the library and they told us how to use the Rolodex and how to find books and how to get what you needed to get. We don't teach children how to get good information out of here that gets their mind inspired, gets their mind wanting to learn, to absorb much, but they sure can find the wrong pictures on the TikToks and all those things. But maybe that's a part of an aspect of education that we could use. Maybe we can use that technology in a good way, and maybe we can hold these big monster companies more accountable to try to make sure certain, I don't like zealous intrusion by the government, but I also don't like very young children getting to see certain things on social media platforms that aren't appropriate. So my point is, when we go back to Dover, we're going to be talking about guns. We're going to be talking about this ridiculous EV mandate that's trying to have a secretary of a department tell us as legislators. I'm not saying I'm for EVs or not for EVs. What I'm saying is, you all elected me, like 24,000 people.
Right.
I'm there to vote for them.
Right.
And when we have, I put a bill in. It actually passed the House with 21 votes, bipartisan. It's in the Senate. They won't even give it a committee, and that's wrong. A secretary shouldn't make those decisions. A secretary shouldn't say, "Oh, we're going to just change the way state employees' benefits are," after they've committed to these state employees for all these years. A secretary. When we got into COVID, we got into a world where it's good to be king.
Yeah.
And when you're king, you don't have to do all the regulations. And I'm not critiquing the governor. He did what he had to do to get through where he got through. My point is, that time's over. Secretaries aren't independent decision makers. Legislators are. We're in the House. We're in the people's house. We should give the people time to talk. We should listen, and we should do what we need to do to make Delaware a better place to live.
Mike, I can't agree with you more. It sounds like you need to come back. It sounds like you need to come back real soon, because we want to talk about education. We have a lot of things on our docket here on the show. We'd love for you to be a part of it. Thank you for coming out.
I very much
Talking
thank
to
you
us.
for giving me a shot. I like learning and listening, and until we're all working together, man, we're always working apart, and that's not a good thing.
I couldn't agree with you more. And for everyone that's watching tonight, thank you very much for tuning into The Agenda. We look forward to seeing you next week right here on The Agenda.